Joining me now is National Senator Matt Canavan. Matt, I think most Australians will be absolutely shocked at the scale, not to mention the cost of these projects.
Yeah, look, it's very, very concerning. It's also disappointing that a private group has had to do this work. You would think that a government agency would be tasked with mapping how much of our beautiful Australian bushland is going to be destroyed by their plan to go to a ridiculous 82% renewables by 2030. Instead, it's been left to some committed individuals, particularly a gentleman called Steven Nowakowski. Now, Steven has previously run for the Greens political party, therefore a political opponent of mine at previous elections, but I've got to know him very well. He's a fantastic Australian, loves the Australian bush, as we all do, as many of us do. It's just that bushland is now being run over roughshod in a desperate attempt to meet artificial targets that are not lowering power prices for Australians. All they are doing, as you were saying, is making a lot of money for often international foreign-owned firms on the back of those higher power prices we all have to pay. Now, these maps are extraordinary, as you've outlined, the current amount of solar and wind projects taking up an area the size of Sydney. But this is just for starters. What Steven's done is just the map for projects that are in train right now, that are going through approval processes, that are under construction, etc. To reach net zero, this thing we call here about net zero, there were some academics from pro net zero academics who calculated that we would need to blanket our countryside with 2 times the size of Tasmania, or almost 2 times the size of Tasmania, in solar and wind to reach net zero. 2 times the size of Tasmania, and then another Tasmania would be needed to reforest, to grow trees on previously agricultural land, to offset what emissions we have to meet the net part of the net zero. This is insane. It is absolutely insane, and it's not just an economic catastrophe now. This is an environmental catastrophe for our nation. We destroy our bushland, we kill these birds, we kill these koalas. They don't come back. We shouldn't be doing this, and I didn't get into politics to throw on a koala suit and do this, but by God, I'm not going to sit by and let our beautiful bushland be destroyed by these people who are just chasing money.
So, Matt, these facts and figures, the maps that are going to be provided to the public, this is all incredibly important. I guess if the public really understood the scale and the cost, it'd make nuclear power look like a bargain, wouldn't it?
Look, I think it's exactly right. I mean, wind and solar take up so much more land than a nuclear power station, than even a coal-fired power station. And that's why traditionally, over time, energy systems have become what's known as more dense. You go to power systems that take up less footprint on the earth. You do that obviously for environmental reasons, but there's also a good economic reason to do that, because when you need less land, it's normally less costly as well. And what we're finding out with these renewable projects is it's going to be a lot more costly than we expect, because understandably, people don't want to live next to 280-metre towers. 280 metre. These are exactly as large as the skyscrapers in our major cities. There's a reason why Zali Steggall doesn't want these things off the shore of Manly, and likewise, no one wants them next to their house either. And so what's now happening is you're going to have to compensate those people as well. That'll be another cost added on to power bills if it does ever happen. But as you say, why don't we've got these other technologies like nuclear, which wouldn't require all this cost, which wouldn't have all this heartache for people in the bush, and most importantly, wouldn't kill our beautiful native critters that are indigenous to this land.
Which then begs the question, why is the coalition dilly-dallying in terms of getting out on the front foot and absolutely prosecuting this case? I guess we'll have to wait for that committee to come back with a recommendation.
There's a few. Yeah, we're getting there.
I know. You're doing a great job, Matt. It would just be great if the leader of the coalition was leading the charge. I want to ask you about EV chargers. There's a good segue. New South Wales taxpayers could be slugged for EV chargers, whether or not they drive an EV. The government's pushing for electricity providers to roll out more charging stations, but the providers are saying, we don't want to do it without an upfront investment of $135 million from taxpayers or permission to recoup the money through higher electricity bills. So those of us who drive non-EVs are going to be hit twice. We pay a fuel excise that EV owners don't, and now we're going to be paying for EV chargers.
Well, look, I've got no problem with people who want to drive an electric vehicle. Go for your life. I just don't think other people should pay for you to have to do that. I mean, I've read a lot of history in my time, and I can't remember the government having to subsidise petrol stations to help Henry Ford sell more Model T Fords, right? People bought them because they're a better product, and they paid to fill them up because it was such an amazing invention. The problem here with electric vehicles is they require so much government cash, and to put these figures into context, now you're talking about the extra hundreds of millions needed here for electric charges. We already now, the cost of the fringe benefit tax exemption we provide to electric vehicles is over $500 million, just $560 odd million. So you add on the EV charge subsidies as well. You're getting very close now. Get this, you're getting very close to the amount of money it costs the Australian government to subsidise the Australian car industry. In its last year of operation, we spent $700 million on that assistance in its last year of operation. So the question has to be asked, is this a good deal? Is this a good deal for our country, that we went from making cars that people wanted to buy and gave us pride that we could actually build something as a country? We had therefore skills as well that would help us if we ever needed them in a defence crisis. And now we've gone to actually subsidising by almost the same amount to cars, that rich people buy, and that are invariably, that all of them are made overseas. Many of them now made in China that apparently pose strict security risks to us.
It's a really
what a terrible
point.
trade! What a terrible trade offer we've done to this country in the last decade.
Matt Canavan, you are not wrong at all. Thanks for joining me tonight.